Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. The faithful will be escorting the lady unto the field of battle today as they clash with the Empire. I'll be commanding the Brettonians, and then we'll have McFly on the Empire side. So for the Brettonian forces, we have a front line of peasant mobs, as is pretty standard stuff. They will be backed up by battle pilgrims instead of men-at-arms. We do have one spearman-at-arms in the back, and then we, of course, have the peasant bowmen archers, one of which is going to be the fire arrows, and we have a couple of pox arrows mixed in as well. Pox arrows, of course, just provide poison to the cav engagements and the other engagements as they can, and fire arrow is on the off chance that we're going to be seeing Volkmar get a little bit of extra damage to him since he does have regen. And then for the mobility, we do have 4 questing knights spread across the field, one of which is going to be the companions of Quenelles, as they do have armor piercing bonus versus large, which the regular questing knights do not have that bonus versus large, so they will be rocking in the side there. And then for the Empire, we have a little bit of a different army, but one that can still prove rather useful. So for the front line, it is going to be swordsmen, just kind of mixed in there, a couple of spearmen, and of course we do have the Sigmar Sons, which are unbreakable to kind of hold back the tide of the Brettonian cav for as long as physically possible. And we have a couple of mortars as well to help kind of chew through either the peasant bowmen or just the lightly armored frontline infantry that the Brettonians do have. We have the silver bolts as well, who do have stock, so provide a little bit of a surprise to any unsuspecting Brettonian forces. A couple of halberdiers in the rear, but in the forest here is where this army is going to be shining. We have the Black Lions, the War Wagon Hellblasters ROR, and they'll be sitting in the tree here, waiting to kind of catch those Brettonians, as we do have Marcus Wolfhart going to be firing away from the shadows, as he does actually have the Hunter's Snare, so he'll be able to kind of snare a little group of Brettonian cav and allow those Hellblasters to go to town. We also do have a Demigryph Knights with halberds, but it is only one of them, really hoping that the Hellblasters and light can do it. But we also do have a Grey Wizard. Not going to be seeing any life magic here, but we do see the Pendulum and the Pit of Shades on this caster here. So really looking for that net and then a vicious Pit of Shades or Pendulum to really help chew through the overwhelming numbers of Brettonian cav. We'll see how it works out, and let's get things rolling as the mortars do open up as the Brettonians do advance, coming in through the tree line here, and the shot's going to be raining into those battle pilgrims as the Brettonian cav is going to be moving up through those trees, looking to get a little flanking maneuver on both sides, but unsuspecting to them, there will be a little surprise waiting for them in that tree line. Now, at this point, I was kind of expecting that there was going to be something in the trees. I was not going to be expecting Marcus Wolfhart and a Grey Wizard, so we'll see just how well that surprise is going to be sprung. But the other questing knights are going to be having a free charge into some swordsmen who don't really have anything to really defend against it. They don't have any charge bonus. But now the halberdier is going to be moving out, and the shot's going to start raining out. The Hellblaster looking to be targeting those, but we do have that Hunter Snare going down. Demi's coming out of the tree line here, going to be getting a nice charge into those questing knights, and here is going to be that Pit of Shades going off, and you're going to be seeing that health melt away from these questing knights as they are already down to half health and dropping even faster. The rest do pull out away from those Demigryph Knights, but man, those questing knights just took so much damage off of that charge, or off of that cast there. But otherwise, the rest of the questing knights taking quite a bit of fire from the silver bullets as well as the Hellblaster volley, as they're all going to be just firing on in, doing some very good damage there. But the other one was able to break the swordsman on the flank very quickly, while the rest of the units are now engaging. And the Fey Enchantress is getting mixed in as well, as she is going to be bringing, of course, Earthblood and Regrowth, and she is rocking with her double Paladins. That one does have a Guardian, and they are just going to be trying to drain away the rest of this engagement here, as she does a little Mortis Engine effect of her own. And then if we take a look over onto the flank here, these Demis are going to be chasing these questing knights off the field, as one of them does return. But as these questing knights are starting to circle around, the Paladins are going to be pulling back here, and these archers going to be turning and firing on to those Demis, looking to break them down here. But seeing a little gap in the formation, the companions of Quenelles looking to get a nice little charge off into these mortars. Going to be trying to take them offline as quickly as they can, and they do get a nice little charge there. And the silver bullets themselves are also getting pulled off by the battle pilgrims and the peasant mob. That front line of the Empire is slowly breaking, but now the shots are raining in from the Black Line ROR, and another Hunter's snare does go down, and this is going to be onto some very expensive companions of Quenelles as another Pit of Shades right into the middle of that formation, and you're just going to watch that health drop once again. A very nice combo that has worked rather well so far. And in the rear here, the paladins are able to actually break down these demis a little bit with the help of these questing knights, as they are going to slowly start plucking away at them. And then the rest of the peasants going to be turning their attention to the front, as they do continue to try and keep these guns silent for as long as they can. But they have that Hellblaster, or the Black Lions ROR, continuing to do a lot of good work, doing a ton of damage to those companions. But those Pit of Shades have just been something else so far this match. But the formation is pretty spread out now throughout the course of the fight here. These swordsmen just are able to get broken in time before they do put a little bit too much pressure onto these peasant bowmen. And otherwise, the Fae is just trying to drain these Sigmar Sons as best they can, because they have to die to the man. Otherwise, they're still going to be a pain in the side. But the Silver Bullets have, for the time being, able to be keep away from those battle pilgrims, and these demis continuing to getting hounded by these double paladins and those questing knights. And now the shots are going to start responding to that, trying to peel them off of the demis, and doing a lot of good work in the process. There's going to be a ton of damage going the way, as Marcus Wolfhart continuing just to fire away throughout the course of the fight. Nothing's been able to really contend him just yet. The Fae going to be getting a little heal off onto herself, as she does need a little regrowth to keep her topped off. She's been taking a little bit of damage from those War Lions and just that general combat over the course of the fight, while the rest of the peasant bowmen sitting very nice on ammo, which is going to help, especially in the late game. Balance power is in the Empire's favor at the time right now, as another Hunter Snare keeping those paladins at bay, and point blank firing against these paladins from the silver bullets, going to be doing a ton of damage. But they didn't take as much as the Empire probably would have liked, and now they're going to be jumping right on in to the Black Lions, finally able to shut them down, even if just for a second, while Marcus Wolfhart is going to be turning his attention their way as well. But spearmen gotten into the mortars as well, and the peasants are now in range to start firing away onto the mortars themselves. Finally, that front line of the Empire has been broken down pretty completely at this point. There isn't a whole lot left. There is still the halberdiers in the rear, though, going to be protecting the important stuff in this fight. But the questing knights getting a nice charge in, able to break the silver bullets for now, and these the Black Lions starting to take some damage, as they have lost one of their units, and the paladins are going to be in hot pursuit, trying to break down them as best that they can, hopefully get them off the field once and for all. But now that balance power has started to swing a little bit into Brettonnia's favor, as things are starting to get compromised in the back line for the Empire, as the peasants continuing just to pluck away at the low armored front line infantry of the Empire, slowly whittling them down bit by bit. But the questing knights for the Brettonnia have taken a ton of damage throughout the course of the battle. Luckily, the Demigryph knights are finally shattered, because there is not a whole lot of stopping power left for the Bretonnians in their mobility. It is going to be just enough to help chase off some of these mortars and kind of keep things under wraps in that regard. But Marcus still able to continue firing away, as the paladins do kind of pull out. There's quite a bit of halberdiers sitting around them, as they do have a very nice bonus for large, and the paladins don't really want to get too mucked up in that fight there. And the Fae right now is sitting a little idle in the middle here, as Marcus Wolfhart, though, is going to be able to continue to fire freely into her. And the questing knights getting very, very low themselves, wavering, even though they are chasing off some routing units. And things are looking like Empire is on the back foot here, but all is not lost yet. The Hellblasters have returned, and the Black Lions will fire once again, as the companions of Quenelles trying to get into them once again. But the Halberdier is going to be closing that back door around them, but it might just be enough to break the Black Lions. We do get a little heal off, trying to keep the companions in the fight. It will just be healing up the Paladins pretty much at this point, but the Black Lions have been routed, but they still have their two models. They haven't lost any more from earlier on, and so they can possibly return. They are quite low in health. Marcus Wolfhart continuing to just fire away, shots arcing away, actually hitting the Fey Enchantress there. Going to be doing some decent work, but the Peasant Bowmen starting to fire into the trees here. They are going to have a few shots blocked by those trees, but they need to start wearing down what is left of the Halberdiers, all these swordsmen. Because at this point, the questing knights are going to be nothing more than escorts at this point, trying to get things off. But we do have a pendulum going to be arcing its way right through these peasants, and it is going to do a ton of damage there. Not caught in time, and they will be able to rout both of those units off, and that is a lot of ammunition going to be running away from the fight. It's not something that the Brettonians want to be seeing at this point, but they still have two paladins left in the fight. They are sitting kind of low, but they still have enough to get the job done, while the Fey Enchantress is routing off the field. She is down to just 338 health, and she is going to be needed sorely in the late game if the Brettonians here want to be able to deal with all of this infantry, because she does have that mortis drain. And Marcus just continuing to fire away as he has a few units on the periphery starting to come back, trying to at least salvage some of what is left of the front line. And they have lost pretty much all of their range with the exception of Marcus Wolfhart. Spearmen trying to whittle down the swordsmen, but they'll be getting pushed off by them. It is only a matter of time before they do break, but all of the peasant bowmen still won with a ton of ammunition left. Going to be trying to break down these forces as much as they physically can, use up the last of their ammo, and luckily they do have some more peasants returning in that back line, and the swordsmen will be shattering as the paladins did turn to face them, trying to break off as many of the reinforcements as they can. But now the peasant bowman just slowly whittling things down. The Fey has returned in the back there, going to be trying to return to the fight momentarily, but both of the paladins are continuing to take fire from Marcus Wolfhart, and his shots are finding their target and doing some very good damage against the paladins. Now, luckily for me, this is just the regular paladin. The other one that has Guardian is still sitting pretty and isn't taking all of that damage that the other one is, and the shots from the peasant bowman is really what is slowly breaking down these halberdiers. There's just so much ammunition left, especially between these two units here. They almost have half of their ammunition to kind of continue firing away as best that they can, and the paladins trying to get a little circle around, trying to get into the rear into that Grey Wizard, break them, and potentially Marcus Wolfhart as well. But luckily for Brettonnia, Marcus Wolfhart is almost on the last bits of his ammunition, but with his last few shots, he is able to rout one of the paladins off the field, and we'll see if that lone paladin is going to be enough to support the Fey, and the Fey is going to be returning. She does have a little bit of a regrowth, going to be healing her up to her healing cap before she does finally join in the fight, and the Brettonians just content with waiting, allowing all of the peasant bowmen to finish off as many of the state troops as they physically can, and they definitely have the numbers advantage in the late game, looking to get a nice little surround off onto the Empire forces with what they have left. They do have some of the questing knights, but the Black Lions ROR is back in the rear, though it is being forgotten for the time being, and I don't know if they'll be remembered in time here, as the last engagement is now currently underway, as the Brettonians getting that final surround off, trying to break what is left of the halberdiers, and now it is just Marcus Wolfhart without any ammunition, stuck in combat as the Paladin and the Fey Enchantress both charge in, trying to finish off what is left of the Lords and Heroes for the Empire to break the leadership back of the Empire. But the Paladin is low, and he is taking a considerable amount of damage still. He is getting hit by Marcus Wolfhart, and he is wavering himself, and the Fey Enchantress isn't exactly sitting pretty in terms of HP either. And while Marcus Wolfhart is still very healthy himself, and the Paladin, despite having the favor of the Fae to get a little bit of extra melee attack, is going to be routing off the field and leaving all of these forces just down to the Fey Enchantress, as the questing knights do try and chase off what is left, what is breaking. All of these halberdiers going to be running off the field. The Grey Wizard is also going to be routing, and the balance of power is shifting heavily into Brettonian's favor, as Marcus Wolfhart is getting very, very low in terms of leadership, and now he does finally rout, and that is going to be your match as the Brettonians drag their way to a victory today. Now, taking a little look at the after battle report. and see just how things went on both sides. So we'll start with the Empire. We do have Marcus Wolfhart, of course, getting 2,800 in value. He did quite well, was able to use up all of his ammunition, and his nets were also in just super helpful for the Empire, especially in combination with the Grey Wizard, who also got over 2k in value with those beautiful Pit of Shades and a very nice pendulum in that late game. And had it been able to shatter both of those peasant bowmen, Empire might not have had, or the Brettonians might not have had enough ammunition left to whittle down the Empire to the point in which they could carry the day in terms of the infantry fight. Otherwise, for the rest of the front line, Sigmar's sons did very well, getting 1,300, able to fight down to the last man. They traded very effectively into the front line of the Brettonians, and apparently traded very well into the battle pilgrims as well, because there's no other way they could have really gotten that kind of value against just the peasants. Rest of the forces, the Black Lions, ROR, didn't really pay for itself. It was a nice little tool to have on the field to help whittle down some of the Brettonian heavy cavalry, but it still only got 1,400, and I want to say it costs around 1,800, the ROR. I may be mistaken on that, but the demis as well, being a little lackluster there. They got a nice little surprise charge off onto one of the companions, or one of the questing knights early on in the fight. However, they did get over-chased a little bit and got dragged down in the rear of the Brettonian formation as the paladins did turn and kind of did quite the number on them and were able to get pushed off the map. But otherwise, the halberdiers were very nice stalwart defenders in the back line. Spearmen as well, fairly decent. Even the silver bullets didn't quite get as much value as they would have liked, and then the mortars themselves kind of about what they cost. But on to the Brettonian side of things, the Fey Enchantress getting 1,000, both of the Paladins getting about the same. Otherwise, the rest of the forces, of course, the peasant mobs doing pretty much as what you would expect, pretty low standard stuff for them, and the battle pilgrims themselves really didn't do well in the slightest. Might need to rethink their role in this engagement here. None of them, I mean, they did about as well as the peasant mobs here, really being a little lackluster on that side. But the heroes of the day, the peasant bowmen, is where you're going to see that value start to shine through, as they actually not as much as I'd expect. So even though there is quite a bit of damage being dealt by the Brettonians, it seemed like it was a lot more spread out than I would have expected. Nothing really like overwhelmingly had a ton of damage. Even the peasant bowman, I mean, the best one had about 800, while on the Empire side, you definitely see that combination that you don't usually see, that Marcus Wolfhart and the Grey Wizard. Though on this map, it was perfect because you could have that nice little forest trap, and then once that trap was sprung, most of them already got their value from just that initial surprise. But a very interesting army on the Empire side, and I do hope you all enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good one.